this go up a little?
You do?
I just feel like her head's like right at the edge.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, that looks better.
Good.
Okay, we just wait until a couple people. Okay, someone is watching.
Somebody's watching. Cool.
Okay, welcome everybody. We're just gonna give a couple minutes for people to join. Okay, I see several people have joined, and so I think we're going to get started. And today,
Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much for joining us. And today we're here to talk about front assembly in Newfoundlands. And we're going to show you 4 Newfoundlands, and we're going to do some measurements to show you how their fronts stack up. And then we're going to do some analysis, and then at the end we're going to watch each of them move, and we're going to try to see if we can translate some of that information that we learned about their fronts into how they move in the front. And please feel free to join the conversation with questions. And we are going to focus though today on fronts, and I think our thought is to do a future video where we talk about the rear assembly, and then at some time down the road join those two pieces together and talk about movement in general, and balance and other things that come together. I apologize, it's a little loud today, but we are in the shade, so we're hoping we can keep the Newfoundlands engaged in our process a little longer, and we're going to look at each dog's front here in the shade, and then we're going to move them out into the sun. So the first thing I'm going to do is give you a little reminder of what we're looking at here, which is the structure of the Newfoundland. And this is called the Topography of the Newfoundland, and I got this drawing from the Illustrated Guide. And I want to point out that I've highlighted a couple things, and you can see in this Illustrated Guide drawing there are all different parts of the Newfoundland that are marked. So if you're ever wondering when people are talking about the croup or the withers what they mean, the Illustrated Guide is a great place to find that. And I've highlighted the 2 bones that are key to the front assembly, which is the scapula and the humerus. And the scapula is really the shoulder blade. And we usually refer to that as going from between the point of the withers to the point of the shoulder. And so I'm going to try to point those out here. So the point of the withers, we have scissors. We're going to use scissors as a pointer. The point of the withers is here at E1, and the point of the shoulder is here at E2. And then the humerus ends at the elbow, which is here at E3. So in this diagram, we're going to look at the angle or the relationship between E1, E2, and E3. And I've also drawn in a little red line because this is sort of a line that would be perpendicular to the top line, and that is going to define the angle that is at E2 between the scapula and this little red line I drew. And
we got wind.
Oh, sorry, got a little windy. And so back a little more. And so I just want to point out that we have a couple different angles here, and unfortunately if this gives you horrible throwbacks to high school trigonometry, I apologize. But when people talk...
Trigonometry was great.
Not for everyone. When people talk about layback, a lot of times they're referring to this angle that I've drawn here in red between my red dotted line and the scapula. And so we're going to actually measure this bigger angle that is represented by E1 to E2 to E3, which is going to represent what I'm calling the angulation, so the angle between those 2 bones. So if you've heard people talk about shoulder layback and angles of 30 or 40 or 45 degrees, those are going to be, that's a different angle than the one we're going to measure. And you could get that value from the angle we're going to measure if you did a little trigonometry, but we don't want this to be a math class, so we won't get into too much detail on that. And so I'm just going to show you another drawing, which is really similar.
I can't see.
Back a little further. So this is and down a little. This, down more. This is a zoom in of the same sort of drawing, but here someone has drawn in my little red line a little nicer. This is actually from a Sheltie website. So this is the straight line across the dog, that's the level. This is the scapula. This is the humerus. this is the point of shoulder, this is the point of withers, and here's that dotted line I drew, and the angle here they have on this dog is a 30-degree layback, and then the angle from this to the level is 60. But again, we're going to look a little bit at the angle between the humerus and the scapula. And so I also want to tell you, we can talk about both of them. Okay, so now I also want to tell you that I have a few items that we're going to use today, and you also can get these items if you want and use them. So the first item is we have painter's tape, and thank you to the Hills for suggesting this. I'd seen other people use tape before, but I think some Jack Russell people use 2 colors of tape, so we're going to try that ourselves. And then the other thing we have is very cool, I think. It's a protractor, and I went on Amazon and searched giant protractor, and I didn't really find what I was looking for, but I found this, which is actually a tool used for like woodworking. But anyway, what it is basically 2 rulers, and when you move them apart, it tells you digitally what the angle is. And so I thought this would be really great for looking at the angle between the humerus and the scapula. So we are going to, first, before we look at a dog, we're going to talk a little bit about what does the Newfoundland standard say specifically about the front assembly. It doesn't say a lot, but it says a few key things. So the first thing it mentions are the shoulders are muscular and well laid back. And so people might wonder, what does well laid back mean? So well laid back is that angle I was showing you before, and it means that the withers are further back on the dog, and that line between the point of the shoulder and the withers is well angled. So Steve's going to point out where the withers are on our first victim here. Our first dog today is Beulah. We're going to be showing you the same 4 dogs that we showed you before. Steve, can you put your hand kind of on the back? Yeah, they're like that. We're going to show you the same 4 dogs that we've showed you before, so we don't need to do detailed introductions, but I'll remind you that Beulah is our first dog, and Beulah is a female, and today is Beulah's birthday. So Beulah is celebrating by getting involved with this video, and Beulah is 7 today. So again, can you point out Beulah's withers? And then point out the point of shoulder.
And if you feel along, you can feel the blade of that scapula. And so I'm just running from the very top of that down to where it ends and where you connect the humerus. So that's right about in here. You can see the
Yes, and another important thing to note is that some of this is hard to see because of the coat. And yes, we have, this is something that we're going to battle in Newfoundlands, but we want to have the dogs that have coat because that's what makes it hard. If we had a dog that had absolutely no hair, this would be easier. So we're going to make it like real life. We're not going to make it easier. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use the piece of blue tape to represent where the withers are to the point of the shoulder on Beulah. So we also could note that the second thing that the standard says about the front is that the elbows lie directly below the highest point of the withers. So we can also take this yardstick and show where the elbows are relative to the withers. Okay, Steve's not happy with his tape.
You tell me, because I can't see from this angle very well. What do you think, sweetheart?
It looks okay. It's just, can you just use a new piece of tape that's not torn then? Okay, so here we're going to see the measurement, and just tear it off when you get to the point of the shoulder.
Let's let it go right. Oh,
I want to know the length of it, so we don't want any extra. Perfect. Okay, and now we need a purple piece of tape to represent from the point of the shoulder to the point of the elbow. And can you also show with the yardstick from the withers to the ground?
One second.
Okay.
Only do one thing at a time.
We can only do one thing at a time. Okay, so now we're going to measure with the purple tape from the point of the shoulder to the elbow. And we're going to hope that the dogs do a decent job of keeping the tape on them while they're waiting for their turn so that they can, that's really good. Good job. And so that we can actually watch them moving. Okay.
And what do you want with this?
To show the withers to the ground and show that the elbow is, ideally, is going to be directly under the withers. So one of the things that we want to note is that on Beulah, the blue tape is a little bit longer than the purple tape. So in an ideal Newfoundland, we would have the same length of the purple tape and the blue tape because we want the front to be balanced and we want these two pieces to be relatively equal. In this case, the blue is a little longer, so that might mean that her, what we commonly refer to as her shoulder blade, is a little longer than what is referred to as the upper arm. So the purple tape is representing what we call the upper arm. So Beulah's upper arm is a little shorter than her shoulder blade. There really only other thing that the standard mentions specifically is that the distance from the elbow to the ground is about half of the height. So we can look at that on the yardstick as well. And Steve's gonna get the yardstick out for that. And other than that, we did proportions, but still, this is mentioned. These are the only things the standard mentions specifically about the front. Now, if you look at the Newfoundland Illustrated Guide, it mentions a few additional things which are kind of interesting. The one thing it says, which I think is really important, is without correct structure of the foreassembly, perfection in all other body structures will suffer in proportion to the failure existing in the front. So it basically is saying, if there is a flaw in your front, your overall animal can be no better than the flaw in the front. So perfection in all other body structures will suffer. So the front is important, and it's important to remember too that the front of a dog, especially a giant dog like a Newfoundland, carries 60% of the weight, and so the front is going to be really important in, you know, the Newfoundland being able to do its job, being able to pull a cart, being able to move around. Okay, so as we move on to the next stage, now we're going to measure using our protractor the angle that we see between Beulah's scapula and humerus, so the line from the point of the shoulder to the withers and the line from the point of the shoulder to the elbow. So Steve, can you, you're sort of blocking the view. Do it from the other side, baby. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, and we're not gonna move, we're trying to keep the camera stable, so can you line those up on top of the tape? Perfect. And then you can read us the value.
It says that it's 2% off of where I have the tape.
Okay.
Because we did this at home before, and we kind of know what we think about Beulah.
Well, we'll just try to put the little circle part over the end of her shoulder rather than the tape.
Like that? How's that?
That's fine, although it looks like the top of the tape is higher than her withers right now because you moved it.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's moving with the air.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's just like about 100 degrees?
Okay, it's about 100 degrees. So we're going to just remember that the angle we saw for Beulah was about 100 degrees, and also that the blue tape for her shoulder to the withers is a little longer than the shoulder to the elbow. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our next animal, and I'm going to point out that the Illustrated Guide also offers a couple other pieces of information, and it tells us that the shoulder blade should be broad and have hard, sinewy muscle and be firmly placed. I don't entirely know what firmly placed means, but I think it means that it needs to not move around. I don't know. You really want that shoulder to feel thick and well muscled. And the more angle the shoulder has, the more opportunity there will be to build in muscle. The other thing that we see mentioned is that the upper arm, which we talked about this with Beulah in the Illustrated Guide, it says the upper arm should be the same length as the shoulder blade and well muscled. So that was something where we wanted those angles to be equal. So that was going to be our balance, and also the Illustrated Guide tells us that's how it should be. The upper arm should also lie close to the ribs and be capable of free movement. So you're going to need to move that upper arm as you reach out in your side gait with your front leg. And so we're going to look at that a little more a little bit later. So our next dog that we're introducing, this is True. And we're going to get True stacked here. She's a little bit excited. And just to remind you, True is 2 years old. And she is about 105 pounds. And I forgot to mention before, Beulah is about 135 pounds. So you can see True is a fair bit smaller. Okay, so we're going to go through the same process with True, where we're also going to identify her withers and use a piece of tape to identify where her withers are. So we're going to use the blue tape to go from her withers to the point of her shoulder. And then we're going to use a purple tape. We didn't put the third piece of tape on Beulah. Okay, good. We're going to go use the purple tape to go from the point of the shoulder to the elbow. And you can see on True, it appears as though her scapula is more angled or more laid back than Beulah's, but it does still appear that her measurement from her withers to her point of shoulder is longer than her upper arm. So her upper arm is also a little shorter than her withers to point of shoulder. So now we're going to measure the angle on True.
Can we do the layback one too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so like if we put this as just a horizontal, is that horizontal from your perspective, this one?
Yeah.
That's looking like an angle of about 42 degrees
42 degrees.
for her layback.
And it does not mention this anywhere in the standard, but I think a lot of people feel that generally for a dog that towards the ideal would be a 90-degree angle between the scapula and the humerus and a 45-degree angle representing that layback.
In news.
I don't know about that. I think that's like a general ideal. I don't think we would see that in, let's say, a terrier, but we might see something towards that or even better in a sporting dog where, a front assembly is extremely important. Okay, so now we're going to measure with our protractor the same angle we measured on Beulah. 90. Okay, so on Truey, we see the angle be closer to 90. So it's a little different than Beulah, but I think you can also see that the blue tape is more angled than the tape was on Beulah. Okay, and hopefully we'll get to keep the tape, for the most part, staying in place.
She won't stay in place.
We'll see what happens to Truey's tape. Okay, and I don't know if Truey's a good one. Which dog do you think would be good to show the extension? So maybe Steve can do it. Like extend her arm out, her leg out. So what's really important about these angles and why we want to have them here is not just because the standard asks us to, because the angles in the front and rear of the dog are going to be the engines for our movement. So in the rear, the angles are going to drive us forward, and in the front, these angles are going to determine our ability to reach forward as we're moving. So as Truey moves, she's going to straighten out her leg at her elbow and her shoulder, and her ability to articulate around these angles is going to be what allows her to reach forward as she side gates, which we're going to see that when we watch her move later.
There's some great videos on this sort of stuff too online.
Yeah, and you can also see videos that will probably be better than ours of dogs moving in slow motion and things like that, but we're going to try to move them with the tape so you can kind of see how these pieces of the dog are going to move as the dog moves. Okay, so now let's move on from Truey. We're going to move to the next dog.
Who's next?
Our next dog is going to be Avery. And just as a reminder, Avery is almost 8 years old. She'll be 8 at the end of the summer. And Avery is about 125 pounds. Okay, so now we're going to stack Avery. And I'm going to mention one last thing as we stack Avery that the illustrated guide tells us. It says, with elbows lying directly below the highest point of the withers, correctly angulated forequarters place forelegs well under the body. So you can see that Avery's front legs are pretty far under her body. They could be even further, but they should be well under the body. So you don't want her front legs to seem like they're way out in front lined up with her head. So Steve's going to, again, use the blue tape to show us between her withers and the point of her shoulder. And then he's going to use the purple tape to show us between the point of the shoulder and the point of her elbow. Okay, and now similarly to before, but maybe a little less so, I feel like Avery has maybe the closest, the blue's a little bit longer, but not maybe as much longer as it was on some of the others. Okay, but we're going to use that angle.
Actually, now that we pulled, I'd say this is back further.
Okay, well then maybe adjust the tape.
It does change as they move around.
Yeah, of course. That's why we're trying to stack them all the same way. Okay, so the purple tape is a little wobbly, but now that looks a little more even. And so let's now go ahead and measure that angle on Avery.
This one?
Yep. The angle between the blue tape and the purple tape. Okay, so this angle on Avery between her scapula and humerus is
94?
about 93 to 94. And then Steve's going to also try to measure the angle of the layback. Can you put the protractor the other way so it looks more like we're measuring from the drop down to this tape?
I'm not sure which.
Like just rotate it 90 degrees. Okay, never mind. Just do it the way you were doing it. Okay, so this is the angle between the level and this layback measurement. And on Avery,
This is horizontal. So what angle do you want?
I wanted you to measure from the point of the shoulder upward, draw that line, and measure from that line back. Because that really is what people will represent as the layback. Sorry, Avery is not our most accommodating animal here.
So you're doing like this.
Exactly, because that's how we're looking at layback. So we have a line that we can draw up, imaginary line from the point of the shoulder straight up, and then we're going to have our layback. And so on her, we see
35, 32.
32 to 35. Okay, that's great. All right, so that's Avery. Want to put a piece of tape on her leg too? Okay, great. And now we're going to bring out our fourth dog.
Fourth already.
You want to tape more things?
I love taping. Taping's the best.
Our fourth dog is Sky. And Sky is 8.5. Sky is our oldest dog. And Sky is about 105 pounds. Okay, so we're now going to do the same thing on Sky, where we're going to measure from the point of the shoulder to the withers with the blue tape. And then we're going to measure from the point of the shoulder to the elbow with the purple tape. Sorry, a whole bunch of motorcycles are going by. It's a beautiful day here. And now we're going to do our measurement with the protractor. And actually on Sky, probably the blue and purple tapes are closest to the same length. I think the blue is a little long up at her shoulder.
Yeah,
so I think those are closest of the four dogs that we've shown you, closest to the same length. And so this represents the best balance of the length of her scapula and humerus being the same. When we measure that angle, it's 90 degrees. And then let's try to measure the layback.
That was this one.
Yeah, that angle.
This is you tell me from
Yep, that's exactly it. We're going to measure from that line that goes directly up perpendicular to the point of her shoulder and back to the blue tape.
33?
About 33. Okay, so this is kind of similar to what we were seeing in the little diagram that I showed you before, where we were seeing that angle of 30 degrees between the B to E line and the scapula, and then 60 degrees between the level and that scapula again. So that's probably a pretty typical measurement that you might see. but you can see that Sky probably has the most similar measurement between her scapula and her humerus. Oh, what's that?
They all have their tape on still.
Okay, and everyone, Steve reports that all the dogs still have tape on them, so that's really good. Okay, so now we're gonna take the 4 dogs, because I want you to be able to see all 4 of them at the same time with the tape, so you can see the variability, and then we're gonna try to do a little opportunity to move them, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, so we're going to do a quick move here and try to follow the dogs as we go this way.
Maybe Avery.
So I'm going to push that trigger once. Push the trigger once now
For what?
for the movement.
Just push it once.
It's a distraction.
Okay, we're going to come over here and get ourselves out of the shade and stack the 4 girls in a line. So you can see Avery is getting ready.
No, it's open.
Okay, here comes everybody else. Okay, we're having a little technical difficulties with dogs trying to lose their tape, but we're getting back to get the 4 girls in line. Okay. Okay. Truey has a little bit of a challenge there. Okay. Okay, we're trying, pardon me, I'm going to just walk back to where I'm using the other phone as a wireless hotspot, but I think I've gotten it's in your pocket. Okay, it said I was too far away from it. All right, we're going to try to do the best we can here. All right, so yeah, I think I need it to be closer to me. Okay, great. All right, I am. Okay, back to where we were. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're looking at Avery, Truey, Skylar, and Beulah. And you can see the differences in the angle of the blue tape, which is our layback. So the more further back the withers appear and the more angled that looks, the more layback. So I guess based on how the tape is now, I might say that Truey or Avery has the most layback. But that's also with a caveat that the tape may have moved slightly in the process. Okay, and now we're going to go look a little more closely at each one again, and then we're going to move them. So you can see on Beulah, if you remember that her, the blue tape from her withers to the point of her shoulder was a tiny bit longer than the withers to her elbow. And you might also see that her withers to her elbow was a little straighter. So that meant that she had that bigger angle of 100 degrees. And then we move back to Sky. Sky has disrupted her tape a little. Her angle was a little bit closer to 90 degrees. Her tape is a little disrupted, but that's okay. And then coming back, this is Truey. And you can see that Truey's has probably the most laid back scapula. Her blue tape looks to be the most, and she's done a great job of not messing up her tape, which is surprising because she's the youngest. We're shocked. Okay, and then finally we're going to move back to Avery. And Avery, again, has maybe a little bit longer scapula than upper arm. And she also has disrupted her tape that goes down her leg a little bit, but you can also, again, see the angle here is, and remember that most of the girls were a little bit over 90, except Beulah was 100, and I think Truey was the one, Truey or Sky was closest to 90. Okay, so now we're going to take everybody back out of the spotlight and move one at a time. And we'll maybe try to do it once or twice so that we can see how well we can see this. But do you want to start her over there and run past me? All right, we're going to do our best. We are trying to use the image stabilizer, but as you've seen before, you know, it comes with a caveat. Okay, now we're seeing Beulah move, and you can see the articulation as the tape moves. Okay, let's do that again, yeah. Maybe we'll give Beulah a little opportunity to get... Oh, Todd Bridge would like to see Steve move with tape on. Okay, we do not have Steve taped up yet, but this is under consideration. All right, I'm gonna try to let Beulah get a little bit of a start before we try to move with her. And you want to try to think about what we learned about the angulation and how that relates to how well this dog articulates and moves in their front. Okay, that was good for Beulah. Okay, let's go and grab another dog. Do you want to move all of them?
Sure.
Okay, so now we're going to grab another dog. And it looks like next could be Skylar coming back to the group. We're going to trade and see Skylar move. The sun's coming out for Sky. Okay, now we're seeing Skylar move, and you can see the articulation of those 3 pieces of tape as she moves. And we're going to try that one more time. Okay, well, we can adjust it. Steve's gonna try to fix Skylar's tape because it is not as well representing her. Yes. Good girl, Sky. That's very good. Okay, and you can see as Sky moves how the elbow and the shoulder articulate. And okay, now we're gonna do another animal moving, and maybe we'll at the end move somebody without the tape and see. We can't rule out the fact that there is a little bit of, frustration and disappointment that they have tape taped to them, so they might not be moving exactly as they might under other circumstances. Truey does not seem to be off put by the tape though. Yes, Devin Nutbeam replies to Todd, do we really want to know how all Steve's parts work? There was a request to see you move with tape. Okay, Truey has kept her tape pretty well, so we're ready to see Truey move. Okay, that's really good. And you can see how her leg is reaching forward. Yeah, Truey's a little excited. She's definitely enjoying this video. Truey does enjoy pretty much everything though. That was good, very good, Truey. Okay, and now we're gonna move. Avery is our last. We're gonna grab Avery and see if we can get Avery to accommodate us. Okay, now you can see how Avery is articulating through her shoulder and her elbow. That was really good. Okay, let's do that one more time. Yeah, you can. Avery was... Okay, so Devin requests, would it be possible to move a little faster so they stretch out more? Sorry, Jojo. We can definitely do that. Let us move Avery one more time at this speed, and then we'll see. Truey and Skylar are probably our best bets to get them to move faster. Okay, here's Avery again. So you can see again the articulation as Avery moves. Now the other downside of going faster is you've probably figured out that I'm trying to run alongside them. So that could be a downside too. So sorry about the extra noise and whatnot. All right, so now we're gonna go to Truey and Sky because I think those will be the best ones to move a little faster. We can try that, yeah. Yeah, and do we want to keep the tape on for one and then do one with the tape off? We're losing the tape a little bit on Sky.
Yeah. like they're in a class.
Yeah.
We'll start back here.
Yeah, let's start back further so we have a little
Yeah,
more
let me
running
start.
space. Apologies, we have some tall grass, which is why we were working in the gravelly area a little bit. So Truey now looks like an extremely short dog, like maybe a large dachshund, because she's standing in like 4 or 5 inch tall grass. And we can definitely do that, Luann. Okay, there goes Truey. And here comes Sky. I know we need better, definitely better equipment. Truey, I have to say, Truey wins the award. Her tape still looks perfect, like we just put it on. And meanwhile, Sky's is all like mangled up over here. But that was really good. Yeah, I don't know. Can we go a little faster? Do you want to try to do the gimbal part then?
What, to follow along?
Yeah.
I'll try.
Devin says we need like an automated camera with a chair.
I've not been allowed to use the gimbal up till this point.
Honey, you use the gimbal for the
But let's see what we can do. That was great. Let me come back over to Skylar. Excellent.
And maybe should we do one where we take the tape off and maybe people can decide at home who is moving the best?
Well, if they go back this way, there's no tape on that side.
But you can't, they're on the other side of the person.
Oh, okay.
Drew might do it. Hold on.
Advanced maneuvers here.
This is our best junior handler competition where we make your dog. And there was a request from Luann to have them moving towards us. And we could do that. And
Here, do you want your gimbal
sorry,
back?
I'm further away from the gimbal, but I just want to point out that we also have a plan to do a further movement video where we talk about just a general concept of movement. And I think we'll probably talk a little bit more about coming and going in that video. I do want to point out that coming and going are important, but having more or less angulation in the front doesn't have as much impact on how you're moving coming at you in some ways. Sometimes you'll see a dog that has a pretty straight front that will come at you very cleanly. So we're back to looking at Truey. And why don't we have Truey run towards us? So do you want me to move over there?
Maybe back up, Dejah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can go that way.
Yeah, that's perfect. I'm gonna back up and have Truey run toward me.
Did the gimbal stop working?
It just like flopped. I don't know
And
what
is it
happened.
back yet?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, see?
Oh,
Sorry, hold
one
on. We're having a little trouble with the gimbal. Do you want to
Um,
grab it? It's
yeah.
when you gave it back to me, it just... Sorry, our
when
gimbal-
I gave it back to Dejah, it stopped working.
Yeah, so it's definitely Steve. Oh my God, you gave me Avery. I didn't realize it.
There we go.
Okay. Okay. Apologies for that.
It was the husband's fault.
It wasn't really. Okay. I'm going to do my best. Yeah, I'm going to try to back up as you run toward me. Though the one thing is still a fail that we have not resolved our technical problem on is we have an inability to zoom. Oh, too fast, too fast. All right, let's try that one more time. Sorry, I was not moving as fast as Truey was. So I'm just gonna not try so hard to back up. I'm gonna let her get closer to you. Okay, this is Truey coming at us. Maybe towing in a little bit. Coming maybe a little too close to me. And do you want to do the same with Skylar or Avery, somebody?
Skylar?
Yeah, we can do Avery too. Avery has a little bit of a tendency to toe in, so we could show that if we move Avery. Okay, this is going to be Avery moving at us. As I mentioned before, Avery has a little tendency to toe in, so you can look for that. Particularly her right foot. That was good, Avery. Okay. Yeah, we'll do Avery one more time, and then we can do Sky. Oh, wow, Todd's offering to come shoot this series for us. Yeah, that sounds like a great offer.
Did you get that new lens?
Okay, that was Avery moving towards us, and now we're going to do Skylar. And we can finish by moving Beulah towards us too, because we don't want Beulah to feel left out, because it is her birthday. Okay. Okay, this is going to be Skylar moving towards us. Skylar's like, I can't go straight towards you. Sky wants to like come up and curve into the judge. She's fancy, yeah. Here's again Skylar moving towards us.
Skylar.
She doesn't want to move in a straight line. And now we're going to do Beulah. And she'll be our last victim for moving towards us. And we're hopeful to do a video about rear angulation and then synthesize these pieces together. Marla says, happy birthday, Beulah. Beulah should get an ice cream for her birthday. Especially since she had to do this. Okay, good job, Boo. All right, we'll do that one more time. And then once we've talked about rear angulation, then it'll be easier to talk about balance and how the front and rear work together to create the movement, the balanced movement that we're looking for in the Newfoundland. Good job, Boo. Okay, and so can we bring everybody out one last time? We'll see who's done the best job with their tape.
I think Truly.
Truey really did. I'm kind of surprised. I thought Truey would be the biggest train wreck in terms of having disrupted herself. Sky's tape, I think, is the one that moved the most. Okay, one last time. We'll look at each dog and then look back up and look at everybody. Okay, so we've got Beulah, who actually also did a pretty good job with her tape. You can see Beulah's outline, you can see her tape. Then we move over this way. There's Sky. Sky's tape is no longer in the right place, but it's a good effort, Sky. Avery and Truey. Avery's is also actually making what looks like curvatures, like C shapes now. And then finally Truey. Truey's tape looks like we just did it a minute ago. I don't know how that happened. So back up and look at, yes, and she was the most jumping. I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with the hair. So anyway, thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this, and please, sorry, it's a little dusty out here. Please feel free to send us any questions or comments or suggestions for future videos. And thank you again so much, Joanne, Jojo, Julia, and everybody who helped us out here today. And Steve too. And I really appreciate your time, and we'll hopefully see you in a future video. Have a great rest of your day.